phenomenon of stress shift. Stress shift is liable to affect any words that have more than one accent, or any phrases that have more than one accent. This is, in my view, why it's very important to show in dictionaries all of the accents on a word, and not just the main stress. English has a general rule that says if you've got two syllables at the beginning of a word, one or other of them must have an accent, a potential accent. So the word is not mental, it's fundamental. And it has really just the same stress pattern as a phrase like very basic, fundamental, very basic. You can hear it's the same rhythm. Fundamental, very basic. Now this has secondary stress and primary stress as a word in isolation. That means two potential accents. Fundamental, head nucleus. Very basic, head nucleus. Fundamental, head nucleus. Very basic. But what happens if we're going to put the nucleus on some other word in the sentence, in a longer utterance? Supposing we want to have a nucleus on principles, which is going to follow this one. Now, rather than have a gradual build-up, fundamental principles, what happens in English usually is a switch round of the prominence of these two, so we tend to lose the accent on meant and get fundamental principles, fundamental principles, very basic principles. You can do this in terms of speaking of the downgrading of this accent to tertiary, or you can do it by speaking of the relative weight of strong and weak here. There are various ways of formalizing it, but you hear the effect. Although in isolation we say fundamental, you hear the nucleus on mental. When the word comes in a context that's followed by a strong stress after it, you seem to have got a switch in the stress pattern of fundamental, and you get fundamental principles. This applies, as I say, to all words and phrases in English that have two or more potential stresses. It applies particularly, for example, to all the teen numerals. 16 has two potential stresses. It's not 16. It's 16. And as a one-word answer, you can say with two accents. How many people are there? 16. Bum bum, high head, high fall. Or rising head, high fall, 16. Or falling head, fall, rise, 16. It accepts the full range of head plus nucleus intonation patterns. So it is double stressed, if you like, it's double accented. When it's followed by another stressed syllable, people. We don't say 16 people usually, we suppress this middle one and say 16 people. 16 people. That's the phenomenon of stress shift. All the adjectives with or most of the adjectives with are like this. Unknown. He's unknown. He's quite unknown. Double accent. What tends to happen when we've got three potential accents is that we suppress the middle one. So instead of saying quite unknown, we say quite unknown, quite unknown, quite unknown. We seem to suppress the accent on un. But if we've got Again, potential 1, 2, 3, an unknown author. Again, we suppress the middle one, we get an unknown author. So this is part of a general principle reducing 3 to 2. And it just depends which is the one in the middle. There's nothing special about these multi-stressed words. It's a general phenomenon applying to sentences. So examples on the handout then. Sardine. Now, sardine is a double-stressed word. It's not just compounds that are double-stressed. Sardine is one of them, kind of fish. Because if you've got a sandwich, remember ham sandwich, late stress on sandwiches, but it's sardine, you might therefore expect sardine sandwich. But we don't, we suppress the one on dine, giving sardine sandwich. And you seem to have stress shift within sardine. Sardine sandwich. Try saying that, sardine sandwich. Sardine sandwich. If you've got a can, tin, made of aluminium, aluminium in British English is double stressed, aluminium. And so you get an aluminium can. An aluminium can. Americans though call this substance aluminum, which has a single stress, so it's an aluminum can. We say the second person phrase, late stressed, but the second person plural. Notice the reduction of the accent on person. The town hall. We noted that as an exception with late stress. The town hall clock. And here's a relevant one. Tottenham Court. There used to be a farm called Tottenham Court in this area, and the road leading to the farm was called Tottenham Court Road. And that name remains. Tottenham Court Road. And that's the pattern it has with the reduction of the accent on court. Tottenham Court Road. Would it be helpful if I transcribe it for you as well? Tottenham Court Road. Tottenham, in fact, is an interesting example of what I was talking about the other day. Full form is Tottenham. Syllabic consonant formation changes n to n, giving Tottenham. Compression removes the syllabicity at the end, giving Tottenham, which is the usual fast pronunciation, Tottenham. T before N, nowadays increasingly a glottal stop, so we end up with the pronunciation Tottenham Court Road. Tottenham Court Road. Try saying it, Tottenham Court Road. Tottenham Court Road. Tottenham Court Road. Tottenham Court Road. Okay, two last examples on the handout. Second hand is not new, but a second-hand car. And the effect of this stress shift is to make that second hand sound like the second hand on the clock. So the final output stress of a second-hand car is really the same as if the second hand stopped. So one of the effects of stress shift is to obscure the difference between compound stress and phrase stress. Although many of us say ice cream, we all say ice cream soda in that pattern. Because those of us who have any stress in ice cream shift it in the compound ice cream soda. Those who say ice cream, well, they say ice cream soda anyhow. We all end up the same. The operational test to find out whether a word is multi-stressed is to put it into this kind of construction and see what happens. For example, there was a little dispute many years ago, I remember, about champagne. Sparkling wine. Now, is it correctly entered in the dictionary as champagne? And I said, no, it isn't. It's double stressed. It's champagne. How do I know? Because if we make a cocktail out of it, we call it a champagne cocktail. Champagne cocktail. And indeed, speakers are not always unanimous about this. Another of the words that I've carried out little polls about, on a smaller scale, is the word antique. And the issue there again is the same. We all agree that the main stress is on teak, but is there a secondary stress on an or not? the way to discover this is to put it in a phrase with the following stress. And so you inquire about an antique chair. That's what I call it, an antique chair. You can see that I do have second stress there because it then gets the shifting effect. Other people would speak of an antique chair, and they don't have it. So this is the way to test it out. Fortunately, it doesn't matter terribly much. It's one of the minor things, perhaps, for foreign learners, but I think it's important to understand these mechanisms, because once you can see what's going on, a lot of the apparent chaos of English stress, I hope, will fall into place. Okay, thanks very much.
Can I ask a question?